let's welcome him.
Can you hear me? Or can you hear me? Faster?
Yes.
You can't hear me? Okay, so I plan to move around a little bit, and I just want to say first thank you to the Women's Commission for inviting me to speak and share my story. It's been a delight of preparing for this. So I'm going to give you a couple warnings for all the participants here, the audience. There's going to be a level of engagement. You may have to volunteer, and I promise you shouldn't get hurt, okay? So you don't have to be the best to be first. So you have 4 pictures right there, and you can guess who that is. And that is, I was born in 1976. I am a proud Gen Xer. I am a bicentennial child, so that's not a thing to claim, but that is I'm not sure if it has plastic on it or not. If you know, you know. That sofa at my mom's house in Greenfield, Detroit. And then that's me heading to school, and it says back to school. And those 2 were actually true Polaroids. Fast forward to 1994, I believe that's a picture just from high school. And if that area is familiar, that's the backside of student services facing the water fountain behind the building. I hope you enjoyed the story. What is that? Detroit skyline. That's what you're on building. You know what that's called? Spirit of Detroit. All right. Also located downtown. It's one of the iconic symbols that many folks identify Detroit with. And for those who are into music, I heard a little over here. Yes, hometown. We love our music. We are a city of grit and determination. And you probably know I can't move forward without showing you one other thing. Right? So back in my day, I don't have the year, I'm pretty sure someone knows. But back in my heyday, Detroit Pistons used to be the kings of the NBA, right? Used to be the king of the NBA, right? And so I can recall when they won, what year was that, Mike? Was that year we won?
I remember part of that Jefferson.
Yeah. Anybody stand me with this?
Krista at the top there, Krista. Krista, I'm sorry. The zebra says Krista. To the right. To the right, to the right, to the right. Where you look. This way.
Just go with it? Okay. Is it still clicking through?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, just go with it. I love it. So the Detroit Pistons, they were the king of the NBA. And I was during that time the queen of the courts as well. It may not look like it, and I am 5'4" of course, and proud of it. But I was a legit baller, seriously. And you all know who this is, right?
Yeah.
And you're probably wondering why he's there, right? Because before he was with the Bulls, he was with Detroit. And he was one of the favorite boys. He was a bad boy. And I loved him because he played hard. He probably wasn't considered one of the strongest basketball players, but he had grit, determination. He played hard. He put in the work. And so that is what I'm asking you all to walk with me today while we talk about work. Because to get to where you want to go, you have to put in the work. And at times it's about avoiding potholes on your way to doing the work. And sometimes it's about navigation. So this is my family. My family started off with the lovely Carla Jean. So she lived to be 16 years old. She passed away last year. But it was she and you heard earlier that I worked in housing and residence life, and at that time, unfortunately, I heard someone had violated the pet policy. And so me and some peers had said, hey, this is our life, we need some pets. And so we rewrote the pet policy. So about 8 dogs came on campus December 2006. So she was part of that little cohort. And then fast forward 8 years earlier this month, my husband and I had a private ceremony, got married, and then 6 months later got married in Cancun. That's abroad. And Elijah came and visited us April 1st of 2021. And that is us at our first family cruise this summer in August, headed to Grand Turk. So when I'm not being a great partner to my husband or the best mom I can be, I serve as Assistant Vice President for Federal Trio Programs. And what I love to say too is that I never thought I would say this before, but I'm also part of one of the most dynamic divisions here on campus, and that's enrollment development and education opportunities. Outreach, so yes. But before my current role, I have to step back and talk about TRIO a little bit. As you heard some hoops about TRIO, oftentimes people don't know what TRIO is, and I didn't. Prior to 2016, I had very limited information at all. But TRIO is not an acronym. It is a TRIO because there were 3 original programs with the Department of Education, and that was Upward Bound, Educational Talent Search, and Student Support Services. And they quickly grew up to 7 programs to include pre-college youth, college youth, and adults in a program. So we are home to 7 right now, as you heard earlier. And what I love about these programs is that I was part of them. I didn't join TRIO as an undergrad. I did not know about TRIO. I was part of other programs. But TRIO serves first-generation college students with limited income and with disabilities. And so I was a first-gen student. I didn't know it, but I was. And so now I have the pleasure of being able to serve students and families who fit that. And again, you heard this at the beginning, just because I didn't know about TRIO, you have to remember you don't have to be the best, to be the first. And so I was, as Trista shared, the inaugural director for the SSS STEM Health Science program. It was amazing. I had all the background information about how to serve students, how to advise students, but again, TRIO was kind of foreign and unknown to me, and so I dove into the work. And so I appreciate the trust that Mike Messer put into me those years ago. Success in my current role looks a little bit different. I'm not as hands-on with students, but I did invite one today from Detroit. She just came over here from one of the new programs. She joined us. But really the role for me, success looks like continuing to increase both the access and success of students at colleges of their choice. And of course, we would love them to come to Grand Valley, but we're really here to support their dreams. And it goes beyond a 4-year degree. I really want students to experience even more than what I did. I dove into student orgs, I studied abroad. I want them to do all those things. Join organizations, go to games, do research, just all the things that they may not be tapping into. That's my goal, to encourage my staff to have them do that. Additionally, we did just grow from 7 to 11 programs. And my other success marker is that we continue to increase our footprint, not only in our backyard, but also to continue to grow across the lower southern end of Michigan. So we hope to increase more programs in Detroit, Battle Creek, and other areas. For me, it's really about the student. And when you provide students with an opportunity, you're providing their families with opportunities, and thus their communities. And so it's really about all of that. And the last thing that I really get excited about is having our staff be successful. And that success looks like giving back, sharing our knowledge of why we've been successful at bringing knowledge. So CMI staff be trainers at conferences, attend conferences, becoming consultants throughout the TRIO world. All those things matter, and they reflect back to our program. So you may ask, how did I get here, right? So, I see Andy. Yes. So, as you heard in 1994, the lovely Grand Valley, if you weren't here, Grand Valley was a little hard to get to. You got off on Lake Michigan Drive, and you made it through a couple of small towns, and then it was, I believe, just a 3-lane road, one road due west that wind around trees. And you had to avoid deer, and it was one stoplight, I think, on campus, and that was the old Grand Valley. But I love the place so much. And so I landed here in 1994. I don't have the statistics. Andy's here, Bill Batty isn't here, but Andy's here. I believe that was a record year with most students coming, allegedly. So I never lived on campus as an undergrad.
Yeah, where did we put you?
I went to GDA. And I'll tell you the scary part about GDA. You can't see it. I'm sorry, Grand Valley Apartments. So back then, it was the library that was way different from now, and it was a forest with a little walking path that you walked it. If you made it through, it was 16 buildings that were called GDA. And so it was considered off campus at that time. It was a forest. I don't know how they got away with that, but that's where I was, and I think I grew up faster than I needed to. So it was amazing, it was cool. I stayed there. I ended up ultimately living with some sorority sisters in the future and things like that. But fast forward, earned my bachelor's degree in criminal justice, as you heard. Went on, earned my master's at Dr. Austin. She was one of the inaugural faculty in the CSAL program. I hear people say CSAL nowadays. So that's her. She was a mentor, advisor, the friend now. Left Grand Valley, worked for a while, but then over there, that's a picture of Dr. D.L. Stewart and some other CSAO equivalent students from Bowling Green State University, and that was the day of my graduation there. So that is that quick, some pictures to show you that. And Andy, who's now known as the mayor, I haven't held that against him because he kind of made up for it, I'll let you all know. And so this is to recognize some of the firsts that I've had, right? And so in this journey of preparing for this, and I want to say shout out to the signing for helping me out with some pictures, as well as Whitney Thomas, one of my directors in Detroit. I couldn't have done this Canva thing without them. And I did go back old school and switch to the PowerPoint, so I'm sorry, Canva. But the top left, that's me, number 25, and that is a Spartan. For high school. And that's my very first passport. I think I'm on number 3 right now. And so that's my first passport. That is the part of the logo for Civil Health Sciences. That's a picture of the cohort that went to Chile. Also, you see my sorority stone and a picture of me at Bowling Green State University. So my current role is complex. However, ultimately, it's about progressing Grand Valley State University programs and increasing the number of first-generation students attending and completing college. I am the first to have this role. That means I get to shape it and mold it into a unit that supports and contributes to the success of the division and the university. There's pressure and freedom, all at the same time. I like that trailblazing aspect of it. And what I kind of find strange and odd is that I've been pioneering like this my whole life. I was the first to study abroad, as I shared, as well as these other symbols and expressions that I demonstrated to you. And some people may know me and feel like I'm an extrovert, and I am in certain spaces, but overall, I'm not. I do not like the limelight, and I'm actually a little bit shy, and I have to be honest that sometimes having these pioneering roles forces you into that space. And do I do it? I have to do it, but it's something that I don't feel comfortable with all the time, that I'm working with. So whatever it might be, I've entered these roles and I've found success. And what's crazier is that it's not always necessarily the best person for those trailblazing roles, which is the core takeaway for our time together. If you remember nothing, please remember again, you don't have to be the best to be the first. You just have to do the work, watch out for potholes, and be prepared to have some detours. So boisterous I'm not, but I am kind of confident, especially when I get into things that I'm comfortable with and I'm determined to succeed in. And people may ask, so where do you get that from? I get it from my mom. So that is my mom and dad center stage. My mom just celebrated her 76th birthday on the 4th of this month. And she's an amazing woman. She is a salesperson in spirit, very creative. She met Mary Kay down in Dallas and was a big salesperson for that. They went on to sell insurance, but always was into the art. She painted the walls at my nursery school, at my preschool. But what she did was, she wasn't what we call a helicopter parent. She really encouraged me to be independent, be resourceful, and do my own thing, and not worry about what other people thought. Just go out and have fun. So I really think sometimes it was probably a reflection of things that maybe she wasn't able to do. So she really encouraged me to just go. Whatever I brought up to her, you can do it, figure it out. So one of the stories, and yes, I'm bringing up study abroad. I came home because during that time we had little table tents, and they were on random tables throughout Grand Valley. And so I saw something that said study abroad, and of course I was like, oh, that's interesting. And later on, I think a faculty person mentioned it, so I was like, okay, well that's my cue to kind of look into this a little bit more. I ran home over the holidays and said, hey, I'm going to go to London. So my mom said, okay. And so neither one of us really knew all the questions and answers for everything being first gen. And so, but I figured it out, and that's how I started my passion for study abroad. And next to my mom is my dad. He's 79. We're cancer twins, and so he is amazing. He has been my cheerleader and supporter all these years. So that's his role. I get into things that my mom just said to do it, and he's your cheerleader. So he was at all my basketball games, and subsequently he was at all the doctor's appointments and the MRIs and the x-rays and things like that. And he would take me to PT and just being there as a supporter. He's the most well-read person I know. He can hold a conversation across any topic. And what I find special about him is that when I got into certain things, he always asked me the why question. Why are you doing this? What's the benefits? Tell me more about it. And so it wasn't just me making blind decisions. He really engaged me in conversation and made me focus and think critically, think about the decisions that I made. So over here is the top left corner, is that's my home in Detroit, of course, on Greenfield, on a major road, major street. There should be no kids on that street. But my mom made the house look beautiful. I think it was considered a brick bungalow. Below are my sisters, Tina and Tiffany. Tina's 10 years older than I am, and Tiffany is 4 years older. And of course, my name's Nykia. So I questioned that my whole life. Right? So I made up stories. I was like, they were trying for a boy, so they didn't care that the boy didn't come, so they let someone else name me. So I never really asked that, I guess. But I did find out who named me. It was a cousin. Her name was Carmen Dion, and my name is Nykia Dion. So I really appreciate my name now. I'm still a little bit confused because in my house, no one says Nykia. They only use the name Nikki. It's not part of Nykia, but whatever. So from elementary school, middle school, my friends and teachers called me Nykia, and somehow, I don't know why I initiated it, or my coach or somebody, it switched to Nikki, and ever since then, I kind of use that primarily as a work of official name, so. Kind of weird, but I roll with it. Up top, that picture's probably just taken about 3 years ago. The oldest nephew, who's 36, is in a dark blue. He's down in Tallahassee, Florida. And then the other two, one is a UND Jesuit grad, and one is currently there. And they are literally, the one in red is 6'1" right now, and the one in blue is 6'3", and this is only about 2 years old. So, and that's my parents. I'm so proud of them. They've been married for 57 years. So I'm so proud of them. So that's my family, and sorry, I got lost on this one. So what I want to do right now is kind of level set. I kind of share my background. I was raised in a two-parent home. That meant a lot to me. I had friends who were not, and I could see some of the struggles that they were facing. I had friends who we did not have a lot of means, financial means, but I guess it was more than others. I saw that. And so when I level set with you all, I want to say that not everybody comes from a stable background, and I understand that. And I have a lot of education, but not in psychology and not in family therapy, so I can't really give advice to that end. But I do recognize that my upbringing gave me a good head start in life, and it put me in a good path of success. But I will be remiss if I said that I did not have any heartaches to overcome during my journey, like some of you may have had. So remember when I said about not having to be the best, to be first? Well, hands down, the Women's Commission could have asked, and probably asked a number of people, but they asked me, and little did they know that I don't prefer public speaking all that much. I ignored poor Erica for a couple weeks before committing. I didn't tell her that, I don't think, but before committing to this. And there's no humble brag about that statement. It's literally true. Some people have worked with me in the past with this. And I bring it up because despite education, despite confidence, there's some things that we are challenged with. And it seriously caused me a level of anxiety when it's time to do that. But I did find comfort about this space, because this space is about me sharing my story, and everybody in here was not forced to be here. We all came in here. I had individuals email me. I want to say thank you to them for all the emails that flooded in for individuals who couldn't make it for personal reasons. But I really had to think about this, and maybe my supervisor talked to me about this a little bit too. I'm in a place right now where I've been afforded a lot of things, and it's pretty selfish to sit back and hold this to myself, because one of my conversation could potentially open a door for somebody else. It could increase funding for our program. It can allow one more student to access the institution of higher education. So I really have to deal with myself. And the other picture that I'm proud of, and I'll share, well, both of these, I was the first keynote address. I did the first keynote address at the Upper Bound Detroit program, so I was really happy about that. The director emailed me, and I was like, oh, here we go. And so he's very respectful, and he's like, hey, you have to come and give it. And I was like, okay, I have to do it. And then subsequently, the ribbon cutting, my first ribbon cutting ever, was amazing. I shared the stage with Dr. Truss and a wonderful, excellent team in Detroit at our Detroit Center. And what's really important about this is that I came over here to Grand Valley in '94, fell in love with the place, right? It's still here. But there's a level of guilt. Detroit is home. I'm a proud Detroiter. And so I was like, I'm not giving back. And so finally, I'm giving back. So it's a proud moment to have that grant. And so what I have to do is, I know I have to do the work in order to be comfortable with speaking. So I'm still working hard. And I have to avoid these potholes. And what do potholes look like? And like we kind of shared earlier, or I shared earlier, is that coming from Detroit, young black girls, sometimes it's not the greatest statistics that they put on us. or the greatest expectations and things like that. And I've never been one to be too concerned about it, but it's there. You know, I think about that. And so those could have been potholes, but what I did was really try to live a clean life. I was a high schooler, I got into my shenanigans myself, but, you know, wasn't smoking, wasn't skipping school, was working hard and all those other things. So I did avoid those potholes along the way. And then I did also have to keep in mind that there will be detours. So we're going to talk about detours, and I'll take you on a ride to me in high school. And so you saw a high school picture earlier. That's that's Bishop Borges. A picture of them. They're actually closed. My high school closed down, but it is home to a charter school at Grand Valley right now, so that's kind of special. That is a banner of our 1993 state championship, Class C. That's just a mug. That's my team. It's an old picture or whatever. So I think about here. That's it right there. And then left to right, that's coaches Dave Mann and Roz Robinson. I met Roz in middle school. The Detroit area where we lived kind of turned for the worst. And so my mom said, hey, my baby's not going to public school anymore, the local public school. So she put me in Catholic school. And middle school was Christ the King. And so that was a huge shock, shifting from public school to Catholic school. I wasn't Catholic, I didn't have any Catholic members in my family, and you had to go to Mass and participate in everything. So somehow I stumbled in the gym and I found Roz Robinson, which is probably one of the most beneficial things I could have done in my life. Had no skills in basketball. I don't think I played either before that. She threw me in the gym. I started playing. I guess she started having conversations with this gentleman, Dave Mann, and so he used to pop up at my school, sitting on his wall, and we teased him because he was a runner, he had short shorts on, so. He was a psych major for U of M, Western Michigan, should I say, and that was a lot because he is a skilled coach. And so he used to show up and ask me, what book did you read? Did you do your homework? What book did you read? Nothing, you can't come to practice, you can't come hang out with us, you can't come to the open gym at Bishop Borges. All right, so I started reading, and so I started going to open gyms, and it was about education as well as the sport. He turned around a lot of teams, and so they are still in my back pocket, they are still on speed dial, I still see them, still have a strong connection to them, and I thank both of them for being in my life and all the skills and experiences I've had with them. So that's me, and some may believe this if you know me a little bit, but I was one of the top defensive players in high school. I was ranked either in 2015 or 20, I forget which one. And what was pretty amazing is that I oftentimes played down in the post. And I was very comfortable down there because I didn't realize that I was 5'4". I thought I was 6'2". Seriously, I was a tough player. My coach, Dave Mann, said, use your fouls. You get 5 for a reason. So I played tough, and I loved every bit of it. One game I can't remember, it was some twin towers at this school called Detroit, DeForest, northern inner city of Detroit. And these twin towers, they were down there, and I think she intentionally elbowed me in my mouth. She busted my lip, whatever. And of course, I didn't react in a poor way. But what I did, it made me even more determined to score on her or to get the ball, rip the ball off her hand. So what I did was something that Coach Mann and I were practicing. It was a simple up and under, right? Just face them like any tall person. They want to swat. They think they can knock every ball into head. So this is a step through fake shot. I mean, I did that a few times. It was just amazing. So that's how I felt when I got back at her. So I was doing well. I was having conversations with the coach up at Northwood because I had some friends who went and played basketball up here. And so I had thoughts of doing that. And I was playing, I was balling, I was doing this, literally. I stayed on the floor. I was a hustler. I was doing that until I tore my ACL. And so I was like, wow, what am I going to do about this? It was my senior year. We had finished playoffs and everything, so I didn't play the full game like I could have because I was still injured. And so I thought, there goes any potential scholarships, because of course, who wants to take a gamble on somebody who just tore an ACL and to see what was going to happen from that. So the ACL tear, it was a detour, right? Actually, I felt like my road was closed at that point. But basketball didn't let me down. I actually used those basketball principles to cope. Then and even now. And in basketball, when you have a defender, you get all kind of jammed up in the situation, you gotta pivot. Right? You gotta pivot. People play basketball. Yeah. It's participation, okay, thank you, Jeff. Right? So you have to pivot, right? Am I doing that right? Or if that doesn't look good, I do. So I think can I get a volunteer real quick?
I got you.
You got me? Okay. All right. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Okay. So you have this pivot, and I believe there is a board. Okay, okay. So we have. Oh God, you're going over here. So you go forward for that, right? So you have a pivot. It can be forward, right? And if if this is a dead ball, right, I have to keep this one, right? But here you go. Give it back. And then it's also reverse, right? It's reverse. So you kind of decide how I'm going to pivot. But the joy of him just giving his back to me, now it's triple threat, right? What can I do? I can shoot, I can dribble, or I can pass. And so just remember, you have to pivot sometimes. Thank you. All right, let's get out. So I had to pivot my plans, which had included college basketball. So that dream was over, and I was thinking to myself, all my stable upbringing, my good living, the practice, clean grades, all that was over. So I thought, but it was just a detour, and I needed to pivot. But what I didn't lose along the way was my good principles. So what I didn't do, I didn't fall into the potholes of maybe abusing alcohol, overeating, or just being overstressed about the situation of not being able to play. What I did do is make a conscious decision that I would just enjoy college at a level just minus basketball. But what I did do often was that I played intramurals in my undergrad, my master's program, and even the early years of my full-time job. I continued to play. So I know sometimes this may feel a little, throughout my discussion, a little simplified, but I'm getting to the bigger idea because I'm not presenting some sort of formula because I don't have one. My potholes aren't your potholes, and my detours aren't your detours. My family upbringing could be different or similar to yours, as well as the person sitting next to you, and that's fine. Some of you haven't found success in your careers or academics or even life, and some of you have. You may be very satisfied in what you're doing. I'm not suggesting at any point that somebody follows my lead and do what I did, because everybody's journey is going to be very different. But what I am asking you is to always put in work, whatever you choose to do. I'm asking you not to self-sabotage by getting into unnecessary potholes, by traveling roads that you know that may be a little bit rough. Make a conscious decision to avoid those potholes if you can. I'm asking you to find yourself to a position where you can pivot. When I switched my course of study from criminal justice to student affairs and leadership, that was a pivot move. I love criminal justice and criminology, but simply did not put in the effort. I had the education, but I didn't put it to practice. I actually started a master's program. I graduated with a bachelor's in criminal in a CJ program. I earned straight A's, and I was sitting in class, and it was correction officer, probation officer, the other law enforcement people talking about going to work, just coming from work, and I was just a student. And so I asked myself, Nikki, is this what you really want to do? And it was a clear no. It was nothing wrong with criminal justice. I love it to this day. I watch 2020, Dateline, any real crime. People think I'm crazy, Snapped, if you know, you know. I've done it all, but it just wasn't a career path. And so I was introduced to the CSAL program. I had to take the GRE to get into the master's program. and my score wasn't the strongest. So I was admitted with conditions. Remember, you don't have to be best to be first. But I did the work. Thank you. I did the work. I had a successful first semester and no longer was on conditional admission. I fell in love with the field and the program. I found what became a fantastic and satisfying career, but I found it only after I pivoted. Only after I didn't force CJ, once it was gone, I pivoted. Sometimes you feel like you gotta stick to something because I spent 4 years studying it and my family thought I was really interested in it, but you can't let other people persuade you into something that you're not supposed to do. But what was really important for me during that time was to realize that I wasn't running from it, but I was running to a new career. And simply, I just pivoted. I think back to my first role after earning my master's, which was in housing and residence life. And again, my 1 year of living on campus was my second year as a graduate assistant. And what's interesting enough is that Grand Valley State University had purchased GVA. So now I was part of campus, and so I was back into my first campus home. After about 4 years of being a living center director, I got a little bored and things got stagnant. It was challenging my first 2 years, being a new supervisor, being new to the field. But then I was like, okay, time for something else. I was feeling an urge of it's more for me to learn, more of me to give. And so I started looking at programs, doctoral programs. I'll be honest, I looked at one. And I looked at one because on the first floor, which is now financial aid, was the central office for housing residence life. And again, we had email, but we weren't using it like the way we do it now. It was letters coming from Bowling Green State University. It was posted on the wall. And I kept seeing it, and I was like, huh. I felt like it was talking to me and said, hey, do you want to advance in your degree? Or do you want to advance in your career, consider going back to school? It was a full-time program. And so I saw that. Lorraine Austin is a graduate of Bowling Green State University. It wasn't too far. From what I could tell, it was similar to Grand Valley, just 50 years older, I believe. So I made the decision after about 7 years of being in housing and residence life to move on. And it was a good decision. Because during that time, I felt that there was a zone defense drawn up to keep me away from a goal. I didn't know exactly what that goal was, but I thought it was drew up. And so I knew I had to reach in my bag and pull out some basketball principles. And that's what I ask all of you to do. Figure out what your bag is and bring out your principles and your tools and resources when you feel stuck. But as I was saying, I was leaning into my basketball principles, feeling stuck. I knew I had to attack the defense with better offense. So I entered the doctoral program. And warning, don't try this at home unless you truly consider it, okay? And believe me, I counted the cost. I was leaving a full-time position because this was a full-time graduate assistantship. We were not allowed to work. We had assistantships that came with it. So I was leaving a full-time job, my benefits, my retirement. I know it followed me, but it was no longer income going into it. And so it was Carmen Jean and I. My car was paid for and I had student loans, so I said, let's go for it. So I was leaving my full-time job for a full-time GA. It was gutsy call, but I made the move, I pivoted, and here I am. Early in my talk, I touched on how I had to get over my fear of speaking to you all right now. I had to remember the potential of connecting with somebody in this space, people getting to know me on a more personal level, and if there were students in this audience, to connecting them to first-generation programs. I did not want to have any regrets of not coming and wondering who missed out of some information that I could have provided. You know, that would kind of be unthinkable if there were students or somebody who said, hey, or a donor or somebody say, hey, you know, I wish I knew something about a program and I'm not here in this position to share this information. So that would be kind of unthinkable. And so when we kind of talk about the unthinkable, I have to tell you about a really good friend, Jason. Jason and I met in high school. He came to Bishop Borges his sophomore year from UAB. It was all boys school. I guess he didn't like it, but ironically, it's the school where my nephews attend. And he came in, a really big guy, probably about 6'4", probably close, over 250. And we were a pretty tight-knit crew at Bishop Borges, so he was new, and so he kind of had a hard time kind of integrating himself into Bishop Borges. But for me, I was a socialite, just out there. I still am with that part. And so I was like, hey, I'm not going to allow somebody to feel alone and sit by themselves. So by the end of the day, we were best friends. He and I kept in touch all the time. He went on to the military. He made that a career, went on to school. And so he got out of the military, tried to figure out life, and then he decided to go back into some private work, where he went over to the Middle East and did security work and things like that. Came back to the States. We're still ripping and running, having fun together, off and on, and whatever thing that we're doing. He's traveling the world, sending me gifts. And he comes back to the state, and he says, okay, I'm headed back to Texas. And that's where he did his what is that called when you first get into the military? Basic training. So he went back down to Killeen, Texas. And so he studied and trained and became a police officer down there in Killeen, Texas. So he's down there, I'm up here, I'm starting. It's fall 2008. He's married at this point. His wife has 3 sons, and he's expecting a daughter. His wife is 8 months pregnant. It is December 2008. It is the end of my first semester as a doc student. And so we're traveling. He's traveling around, still sending me things, and we're still calling and catching up and doing things like that. So it was one day I was studying with my cohort, and I had got up and went to my room to get something, and I was just like, Jason popped in my head. I was like, oh, it's been a couple weeks, and his birthday is like 3 days away. I said, I gotta call him so we can catch up, shoot the breeze, whatever. And so I was thinking like, oh, I got people out there. I can't go out there right now. Call him, pause and call him. So I'll just wait. They'll be here about 3 hours. So they leave. I sit in front, sitting there at my dining room table. And my email pinged, and it's his ex-girlfriend. So I'm like, well, this is interesting. Why is Jason's ex-girlfriend, because you heard he's married, why is she calling me? And so, or emailed me, and it simply said, hey, do you remember me? Can you call me? And so I was like, okay, I can call you. I was wondering what she wanted, so I called her. And she had some unfortunate news. She said, Jason was in an accident. And I was like, oh. And it was with a boat, and he's missing. I said, oh, okay, thank you. I was upset with her because I was like, I don't know her. Like all of a sudden I switched out, and I got really upset because I think that was that denial kicking in. And I was just like, whatever, I'm about to call my friend. So I called him, and it rang, and it was voicemail. And so the other said, hey, Jason, just call me when you get here. When you get this message, whatever. And so he didn't call, but I got a text message from his wife. It was an email, and she said, Jason's boat capsized. And so my friend was gone. But quickly, I'm going to shift from that and just say, by extension, you never know whose life is going to be capsized because we don't put in the work, we don't show up, we don't get back, and all those other things. And what this whole experience has really taught me is that despite my discomfort, I should never be an invisible barrier to anybody or anybody. That's what we do every day, is to try to remove those barriers. And so I have to just get over myself, right? I have to become comfortable with speaking and sharing so that the story gets out and so that people can be helped. I used to think that my story wasn't great enough. Like, I had both parents, so what can I share? I used to think that I had decent grades. I went to college. What do I have to share? And so I really had to get past all of that because I wasn't a statistic. I was just like, well, what do I have to share? Why am I doing this work? And should I stop doing the work? And of course, we all know that the answer is no. You know, I'm not going to stop doing the work because my story is good enough. I am enough, and each of you are enough. Ironic enough, I was going to end there, and I'm still ending. Is that I was working with Whitney, and I was, of course, as we're doing these slides, we were talking about having fear, and actually, you know, one of the things that I hated when I was an undergrad, I used to go home, and my friends who didn't go to school, their parents would just gush over me, like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you, whatever. I'm just like, please stop. I don't want my friend to be angry with me, or whatever. But those things kind of translate on with life. And so I was just like, I was thinking of this poem that I found like 15 years ago, and all of a sudden Whitney was like, our deepest fear. And I was like, I think that's it. And so it's by Marianne Williamson. And so I end with this. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are meant to shine, as children do. We were born to manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in us and one of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Thank you. I heard there may be some small amount of time for questions, if there are questions. Yes, Director Hayes.
So, as someone that pushes students to get PhDs, what did you find as the most impactful part of your PhD journey? And what did you find as the hardest part of your PhD journey?
What was most impactful was that Bowling Green State University had a cohort model as well as a peer mentorship that was established. And during that time, that was really important for me was to see other women that looked like me being successful. And so the cohort prior to me had probably 3 to 4 women who identified as African American or Black. And so one of them it was like 4 or 5, which was prior to that or after it didn't happen. And so it was really nice to see other people go through the struggle and share their story. It's something I can relate to. And one of the things I struggled most with, because there was a 7-year gap, and again, I was somewhat of an average student, was getting back into writing. And luckily, there was a graduate writing program at Bowling Green. And so professors, they gave it to me straight. You know, a lot of what some folks in here studied, they wrote some of the chapters, peer reviewed it, et cetera. It was not getting away with anything. And so I kept getting some harsh feedback about my writing. And so I took the initiative and did the work, and I enrolled in this. It was interesting because it really wasn't a lot of virtual courses, but it was a virtual writing course, graduate level. It was mostly for international students, but I dove into it, and by the next semester I was getting a lot of positive feedback. So. Alex, what was it?
I was going to say something completely different. Are you taking comments? Will you take a comment?
I'm sorry?
Will you take a comment?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So first of all, thank you for sharing our story with us. sharing your story with us. We talk a lot about life, and so I don't know if I really have a new question since I just come into your office all the time. But I think another thing that I'm just a little bit more curious in, I graduated in April, right? That whole like transitioning into grownness, adult, whatever you want to call it, right? So if you just have any more points to emphasize on that front, it'd be very inspirational and beneficial to me.
So what's really interesting is when you do stay at an institution where you're an undergrad and a master's and you start to work, you have to make sure that people see you as an adult, see you other than a student. And so I really had to be very intentional with the way I presented myself, the way I spoke, the way I dressed, the way separating myself from maybe potentially folks who were still in undergrad or master's program. And so you just have to really be intentional about who you are as an individual, I'm not sure if you stand in the area, but my situation was quite unique, right? And so I had to battle being comfortable with some friends, but really showing up as a professional and being able to move through that and prove that to others. And I can't, no one directly said that to me, but it's just something that was always in my mind that I was aware of, that I had to make sure that I separated my undergrad and my pre-professional life from my professional life. My doors are always open. Yes.
Hi, Dr. Haynes. My question was related to just taking that step to that journey to get your PhD. I do think that it's something that I would like to do. I get a lot of questions as to why I want to do that. And I'm just curious on was that something similar for you? I'm curious because even when I decided to get my master's degree, I got a lot of people well, why do you want a master's degree? So I think that hearing that, sometimes I am apprehensive because I'm like, why are they asking that? You know what I'm saying? So I'm curious about that part.
And it's just some personal advice. Sometimes you can't share your dreams and goals with everybody. You got to take that seriously because you're going to hear things like that, and some people can be resilient and work through it, and other people can't. And I didn't tell a lot of people when I finally made the decision to step out. And a couple of people I did share, it was just like, you're not living Grand Valley. You're not living Grand Valley. So it was that thing. I was like, I'll show you. I can show you better than I said, tell you. But for the PhD journey, yes, you have to understand your why, because oftentimes they'll leave you as APD, as we say, all but degree. And what you have to do is understand, is it for a personal reason? It could be some people like letters, Some people really want to advance, and that's what I wanted to do because I was stuck and felt like I wasn't advancing in my career, that maybe having this degree will open up a few more doors, if not immediately, but down the line. And so the why is really, really important, and it's something that's very personal. And for me, majority of my colleagues, I think they balanced work with, their PhD. My program was 3 years, and so I knew that I needed to, I knew that I needed to focus. For me, some things I just have to be focused on. Doing basketball is basketball. I'm doing this PhD, that's all I'm doing. PhD, 20 hours advising, and that's it, to be successful. And so that's what I made the decision to do. But there's a lot of different options and a lot of different paths to get to where you're going. Any other, slow clap? You doing a slow clap?
I always got your back.
Thank you very much. Oh, Danielle has one more.
Sorry, one more shameless plug.
Okay.
Dr. G's HerStory was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. But I just wanted to say that Dr. G will be speaking again next week, Thursday, in Student Services, 1 to 2 o'clock. She'll be sharing her PhD journey with us for our doctoral dialogue. So if you're going to join us, please do. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wanted to say thank you again to Dr. G for joining us today. We shared a little thank you treat with her. Such a beautiful, inspiring story, and I loved hearing a lot of random coincidences. I decided to just randomly study brought us an undergrad in London as well. I interned in Ghana. My middle school is also called Chris the King, which is, I've never met anybody totally different states, so that was so fun. But thank you so much for joining us today. And if we're doing shameless plugs, I will share the next Women's Commission, the final meeting of the semester, which will be a conscious conversation on inclusive design, which will be next Friday in Lake Michigan. So thank you all so much for being here, and let's please give a fun minute.